With Gillette Labs, get the ultimate shave of your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. Shane.
Yes, good morning, lads. Let's start. Starting in the red.
Oh, yeah.
Well, old school, real old school. Two teams that usually aren't paired up together, but Liverpool and Manchester United will be holding hands in the red this morning. I think it's fair. Both had a fairly bad weekend. The early kick-off on Saturday seems like a million years ago.
Or we can start with the breaking news overnight. Go on.
I'm just going by the...
I know.
Just going by the screen here, guys.
FU San Diego?
Yeah, that's fair.
See, I'm... Do you not like my evolution?
That was very good.
Yeah.
I didn't say the...
Okay, we want to start with the actual breaking news.
Yeah.
The big news. That's fair. Sorry, clearly in the pre-show production meeting, Shane was asleep. Brendan Rodgers and Graham Potter both sacked.
Everybody's like, what, hang on a second. They meet before they do this crap?
Yeah.
That does not happen.
They plan this?
There's clearly no planning going into this.
Yeah, we folks, we do plan this to a reasonable degree. But I think it's fair to say, would you call it a bad day for them yesterday, a bad weekend? They're getting a lot of money for their troubles.
That is interesting.
Well,
Go on, yeah.
I think that this is good for Brendan Rodgers. I think that Brendan Rodgers is now available in the market when there's two really big jobs for which he is a genuine candidate, and I think he'll actually be excellent for those candidates. Eddie Howe took a team down, right? And is now doing such a good job at Newcastle that he's considered one of the best young managers in the game in England, right? Mm-hmm. I think people will completely revisit what they think of Brendan Rodgers after he gets the Spurs or Chelsea job, or a job of similar standards. I think he's going to take a team and do really well, and I think that I think this is good news for Brendan Rodgers.
I was considering suggesting putting him in the amber last night if there wasn't other contenders.
Just Rodgers.
Because I'm not sure it is a red. And even for Leicester City, I think the whole relationship had run its course. It's 4 years, which is a long time in the top level these days. But if you look at it statistically, since the World Cup, Leicester have played 13 games. They've got just 8 points. That's the lowest in the league in total. And it seems like he just couldn't squeeze the sponge of getting any more out of this group of players anymore. And they, I think, tired of him a bit. But you look at Rodgers, and he gets a lot of flack, a lot of criticism for the perception of how he is, right? But he is an exceptional manager. Yeah. Every single club he's been at, he's done well. Mm-hmm. In some form, in some capacity. And you nearly forget, because Leicester have been poor for a little over a year now, but he got them their first FA Cup in 2021, beating Manchester City, no less, in the final. Yeah. And got them their second and third highest league positions ever, to come fifth 2 seasons in a row. Now, the other side of that, if you're criticising Rodgers, or if you're on that side of things, you would lament the fact that he failed to qualify for the Champions League 2 seasons in a row. And it was the last game, I think, at home to Manchester United in the first of those 2 seasons where they had it in their grasp. All they had to do was get a positive result that day, and they didn't. United won the game, and they came fifth. But I think he did a brilliant job, and if he had left last summer, he'd be a lot more celebrated.
Yeah, I don't think it's a reflection on Brendan Rodgers. Even reading the phraseology of the statement from Leicester City, compelled to take alternative action to stay in the Premier League. I mean, sometimes it doesn't mean he's a bad manager. It just means at this stage of the season, they might need a change to kind of kickstart the players, to give them a bit more motivation. There's not long left in the season, and staying in the Premier League is clearly paramount to Leicester City and their ambitions. You can't win the Premier League in 16, 17, and then get relegated a few years later. So, I mean, I feel sorry for Brendan Rodgers, but I think the man would really feel sorry for this morning is Graham Potter, because that one, Chelsea are a basket case, and we saw it at the weekend.
The headline on the front of the Star this morning is Bodge and Raj. I'm like, Rodgers, Raj.
Yeah.
Bodge? Brendan? Is he both Bodge and Raj in this?
Has to be, doesn't he?
But there's a picture of Potter beside him. Graham Potter. Is it Graham Potter Bodge? I don't. I love the use of the Bodge and Raj. It's a very niche,
Yeah.
Late 90s, early noughties, mid noughties.
It's a big nickname around the place, isn't it? Loads of Podges. Is that a Cork thing?
I'd say so.
Is there a Podge? Oh yeah, there's loads of Podges in Cork. I'm trying to think. Is there a surname equating to it? It's a stretch.
Anyway, sorry. Go on. Potter's the one who you have sympathy for.
I mean, Potter's season has been so pathetic that you wonder where does he go. 7 months in charge, but Chelsea. I think Chelsea is the pathetic thing in this essentially. But Graham Potter is the. Remember when he left Brighton? You're thinking this lad is unbelievable. Everything he touches turns to gold. He's Midas, this man. But I think we maybe talked about it in the show when he moved to Chelsea. We're like, this can maybe only go south.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what was the end game? What was the positive end result of Potter at Chelsea?
There was just no way I could see Potter being Chelsea manager next season, and that was a few months ago. And a lot of people are saying he's Todd Bowley's guy. Todd's put loads of emphasis on Potter. Gave him a 5-year contract, said he was going to be patient, very different to the Roman Abramovich era. But here we are, Chelsea looking for their third manager in the same season.
12 points off the top four. Like, it probably had to happen.
But the top four was gone. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I look, they've obviously done it. It turns out old Chelsea, new Chelsea, and there's a lot of talk of them having to sell a lot of players in the summer to finance all the deals they've already made. I guess when Mudryk is missing the chances that he missed at the weekend, there's no significant sign of an improvement from many of the players that they've signed. And you look at other clubs, you look at Unai Emery, the table since Unai Emery arrived, we were talking about this on the football kickoff on Friday. He's a top four in terms of points won since he arrived, which is really phenomenal considering the state of Villa when he took over. But you compare and contrast, and there's been no immediate sign that he knows what he's doing. There's been no immediate sign that he's getting more out of the players than the players are capable of. And I think with the comparison is obviously with Arteta, who Arsenal had never had any intention of sacking, but who there was a lot of noise around when they were not performing at the level they were capable of, and they got rewarded with that. But there's definitely seems to have been a long-term view there, and maybe, I don't know, Arteta's, like, his CV was not as complete really as Potter's.
But I hadn't started at all. He was given a shot.
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola's first team coach. You'd actually forget about Graham Potter's start as Chelsea manager. He was unbeaten in his first 9 games.
Yeah, that seems like a million years
he won
ago.
7 of the 9 games. And what was the first loss? 4-1 away to Brighton.
Oh,
Old
that's right.
employers. And from then it was never really convincing. I think the one thing that kept him going was beating Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League last 16, and getting them to the quarter-final against Real Madrid was a good sign. But again, like Shane, you and I have talked about Potter a fair bit actually over the last 6 months. And do you remember the first half of last season when the Brighton fans were booing Potter at full-time whistle because of a lack of goals?
Yeah.
And Roberto De Zerbi's shown that this Brighton team is well capable of scoring goals. So I found that he was in his purple patch, Potter, for the first 6 weeks of this season when Brighton went to Old Trafford, beat an out of sorts Manchester United 2-0 or 2-1, and had a load of other good results. And then he gets his Chelsea job. It just comes around the right time, and it was way too soon for him.
Yeah.
He's probably another 2 clubs away from Chelsea yet, but he could eventually be there because there's a lot of positive aspects of Graham Potter, the manager. We've been talking about Potter for a long time now.
Yeah. There's an 18-year-old from Bettystown that I would give credit for the Brighton goals, of course. But the Chelsea statement yesterday
Well,
was...
he can't set up tactically.
True. But Bruno Salter, who's worked with Potter at Brighton, he's taken charge. The statement was very interesting. Chelsea said Potter, quote, has agreed to collaborate with the club to facilitate a smooth transition. In other words, help us find someone else. So this
In other words, we're still paying him.
Your ex goes, will you help me? I'm going to break up with you. Will you actually help me find someone else? You were great and all, but give me a hand, will you? Just like
It's those relationships are less transactional, I hope.
yeah, of course. But the way in which Chelsea phrased it was bizarre. It's like, we're going to get rid of him, but he's going to really, really help us find someone else. It just seemed a bit strange. But I mean, Potter seems like a nice guy, and maybe that was his downfall in the end. Too nice a guy.
Dara Heffernan, good shout. Another omission from the Gillette Labs performance rankings. No mention of Daniel Medvedev dominating Yannick Sinner in Miami. Good point.
Sean Murphy in the snooker last night, of course.
The London Independent have Nagelsmann, Pochettino. Pochettino's not in the running for the Spurs job, according to the Sunday papers. Zidane. Now, Zidane, I would like to see that.
Not a word of English, though. I mean,
that would be. He said that he would like to have English, but like he wouldn't be the first manager of a Premier League club whose English wasn't great. But just get an interpreter. Pochettino couldn't speak English for months.
True.
Luis Enrique or Mourinho.
Nah.
Third time.
We do not need to see Mourinho.
Enough's enough, lads.
They're flying. He's flying out at Roma as well. They won again last night, 3-0.
Did you want to move on?
No, I
want to stick on it?
I'm just thinking. Well, like there's, you have open jobs at a number of clubs.
Yeah, 3 massive Premier League clubs with gaping holes in their team.
If you're Tottenham, would you pursue Brendan Rodgers?
Oh, for sure, 100%. Brendan Rodgers just became available, and you'll absolutely take him. I don't think Leicester's current position is a reflection on him. Like as Ger said, he's a brilliant manager. I think you take him in. Like you have to kind of look around, and I think he's a better option than Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann's an unknown entity. I don't know if he get on with the players apparently towards the tail end as well. He might rub people up the wrong way. I don't think Rodgers rubs people up the wrong way. I think players actually pay for him. Well, he can, but like I mean,
that seems to be.
Yeah.
He's a character.
Now that's
He's
4
a
years
character.
in. Well, That is 4 years in at a club where they did not expect to be competing for the Champions League week in, week out. Whereas if he goes to Chelsea, or if he goes to Chelsea or Spurs, he might actually find more kindred spirits. His ambition is the thing that gets spoken about. Miguel's talking about it in his piece today. And like, if you go to one of the super clubs, the players are equally ambitious. You'll find you might find that you can do more with those, and you can appeal more to their sense of ego, and that might be the perfect scenario for him.
If you're Crystal Palace, do you pursue Graham Potter?
No, I don't think so. Like,
The Potter one's awkward.
What happens to Potter?
What's his level now? Like,
if I'm Potter, I'm going and I'm travelling the world. I'm continuing to get paid by Chelsea. I hope his contract was written in such a way that there's either offset language, which is what they do in America a lot, where you get paid until you find a new job, and then if your new job pays you less than the current contract you're on, that offsets, and you've got to obviously show them what it is. I hope that's it, and I hope he continues to get paid for the next 5 years as at the 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 million a year, or whatever it is.
If that wasn't agreed beforehand, he's in a difficult position because it's 6 months into a 5-year contract.
That's true.
Not getting much out of it.
Maybe he goes
otherwise.
into media. Maybe he does a bit of media work.
Well, what's the point of having a contract if there's not some clause in it that says if you sack me, you're going to pay me?
You'd hope so, but maybe he was so excited about the prospect of managing Chelsea.
That's why you have lawyers. The lawyers don't get excited. They're like,
They're not doing their job.
I think Graham Potter would be a fantastic international manager. And it's some way down the line, Republic of Ireland, Graham Potter would be a great match.
Oh, that's an interesting shot.
I do think that if that's what is his interest, there's talk that Lee Carsey is going to finish up after the Euros, and so England obviously would be the ones who would be making contact with Graham Potter. But I like
Sweden. He's managing Sweden. That's where he's going to end up.
Where's your evidence for that? He'd make a good international manager. Where's your evidence for that? Well, that's just my opinion. Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence, Colm?
Oh, you answered my part of it there. You did my part.
Well,
that was great.
But
I just think he'd be good with more time in his hands. No transfer window at the bottom. I don't think the transfer window helped him, to be honest.
A lot of time
decisions.
in your hands.
A lot of time in your hands to
sit on your hands and have boring teams that can't score goals.
No, I think he would just develop the squad. I think he's very good with like limitations and probably players at a certain level too that he can get the most out of. I just never think Chelsea suited him.
World class players like
the status.
All of those English world class players, would they be looking at him going, yeah, you did, oh wait a second now,
he's not.
As soon as you got the opportunity, you bombed out. Yeah, you were exactly what we need around the place in a World Cup quarter-final, semi-final, final.
Talking about the Irish side.
But no, he's not going to manage Ireland. And why do we want him? Let's try and develop some Irish coaches.
Absolutely.
We have
it's an
supposed
option,
to have a system in place.
It's an option. That's all.
No, Stephen Bradley's next up, lads. We all know that. Come on. There's a queue here. Get in the queue.
Sure.
We'll move on. Also in the red, as I started at the top of the show incorrectly, was Liverpool. Objects thrown at the Liverpool bus.
Sorry, Liverpool and what, Shane?
Liverpool and Manchester United.
Yes, okay.
Holding hands,
locked
as I said,
together.
Locked together indefinitely. But Man City strongly condemning the objects being thrown at the Liverpool bus after the game. Inappropriate chants as well by fans during the game, taunting Liverpool fans throughout. I mean, when Salah scores the goal, you're thinking this is going to be a decent game, albeit it was against the run of play. But I mean, I think it was Jack Grealish that deserves the headlines here. John Stones was brilliant as well, but Grealish, the old cliched coming of age performance seems to be wheeled out every so often when Grealish has a decent performance because he's £100 million. These are the games that he should be playing well in. But
well, Grealish has been brilliant. The money doesn't matter.
Ages. 8 assists since the World Cup, Shane.
He's been brilliant.
Yeah,
that's a real backhanded compliment. Who do you support, Shane? Oh, wait, it's Man United. Fairly obvious. I mean, come on, Grealish has been sensational.
Yeah, he's starting to be sensational.
Since the World Cup, he is, in the context, up there with Bukayo Saka as like most effective. Saka's a bit ahead of him, I would argue.
Definitely.
And then it's Grealish, and like he's never not in the team at the moment.
That's the problem though with Pep Guardiola, isn't it? You just don't know. You don't know what he's going to do with the team.
No, I do know. He's picking Grealish.
Well, he has
every
to pick
game.
Grealish, yeah. He has to.
I think he finally trusts him as well.
Yeah.
He's a very specific skill set, Grealish. He does almost all the time does the same thing with the ball. Gets up very, very wide left, like he's hugging the touchline. Everybody knows he's coming back in the right, but he has this ability to glide past challenges or else win free kicks. Basically, his shtick is he wins loads of free kicks. and defenders don't really know how to deal with him because he drifts in between the lines. But like, you'd still want way more from him. Like, you'd want more goals and assists, and he can do that. Like, the goal he scored kind of capped off a great performance. He had this great little flick ball inside to Ilkay Gundogan from the left. I don't know if you saw that when he cut in his right and just chipped it over, I think, 2 Liverpool players into the box for Gundogan to basically create another, I think, nearly another goal chance as well. So he has that in him. He should do more.
When it was 1-0, he tracked back and was like absolutely sensational and stopped a goal.
Got out the Salah.
And they go down the pitch and score in the next movement, basically, and he's involved in that as well. It was like a 90-second window.
Crosses for Alvarez,
And it was an absolutely sensational injection of pace from him to get back, and commitment and all the stuff that, like, everybody is this, you know, how can he do the hippie crack and the late night parties and then still be a great footballer? So, well, it turns out he's got quite the engine on him. And so it's been a sensational recovery from the position where he was like, oh, he's a flop, which all the Man United
it's the sign of a player with a lot of confidence, because he believed that he was going to track Salah down. He believed he was going to catch him, and I think if he wasn't playing that well, or if he didn't feel like he had the belief of his manager in him, maybe he doesn't make that, because he feels if he's playing well now, I can do everything, like he was doing at Aston Villa.
If you're Liverpool, I don't know where you are. It's obviously Liverpool we're discussing in the red, but I mean, it's and this is a Man City without Erling Haaland, you have to remember as well, so that puts the whole game into context.
How did this Liverpool team beat that Man United team 7-0? How did Man United lose 7-0 to this Liverpool team?
It's remarkable, isn't it?
What the hell?
So Jonathan Wilson pointed out that Liverpool have scored a third of their goals in 2 games this season. The 9-0 against Bournemouth, 7-0 against Manchester United. For an out-of-sort season, they've had those 2 games. They look completely fatigued. Jurgen Klopp looks fed up with everything. They're a shadow of them for themselves, aren't they?
They're frustrating to watch, Liverpool. I think Liverpool fans at the moment are just like, this is difficult, because they threaten to be good every so often. Like Nunez and Gakpo are, I think we all agree, good signings now. Like, they've shown enough glimpses this season, albeit it's a bad enough season for them so far. But Liverpool still can get top 4. And I mean, you look at the team; it's like a race to the bottom in the top 4 at the moment. Newcastle probably the best of them.
Yeah. Now, they were unlucky not to have Darwin Núñez from the start. He didn't play for Uruguay in the international break because of a deep cut I think he received, so he only came on, so you're missing him.
Yeah.
But I don't think their attack has been too problematic this season. It's the midfield, isn't it? And their full-backs look shattered. Like, Andy Robertson came off, looked wrecked. When's the last time Robertson got a sustained break? Who's the backup for Alexander-Arnold at right back? Their defensive partnerships have never been solidified this season. Virgil van Dijk doesn't look the player he once was. But still up front, I think they're brilliant up front. Like, that front 3 of Gakpo, Nunez and Salah has the potential to be the front 3 for the next couple of seasons.
Can I ask
but
you,
midfield is the problem.
Can I ask you, without looking anything up here, see, their front 3 has been excellent. Front 3 has potential to be excellent. Maybe not has been excellent. How many goals do you think they've scored in their 27 games? Would you say it is more or less than, say, Brighton?
I'd say you're asking it in a leading manner, so I'd say it's less.
And would you say it's more or less than Brentford?
Again, I'd say it's less.
Well, they're all very similar. Brighton have scored 49, Liverpool have scored 48, Brentford have scored 46. So, for all of the investment, and I know obviously chances are created by the midfield and the wingers, and I understand that they're all having shit seasons, so it's okay. But anyway, I understand that, like, it's a knock-on impact, but they're goal scoring. So Arsenal have 70, Manchester City have 71. What about Spurs? Have Spurs had a good season or a bad season?
Middling season, not a Spurs season.
And would you say Spurs have more or less goals than Liverpool this season in the league? Without looking it up, because these are the type of things that you kind of fall into a pattern.
It's like doing homework with your dad.
Less than Spurs.
Yeah.
By much?
By a margin, I'd say 10 goals.
No, 3 goals.
All right.
They've had basically the same season.
Mm-hmm.
And their defence is actually like slightly better than Brentford. It's the same as Brighton, way better than Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, does this all go down to the problematic nature of giving your star player an extended contract and hoping that you're going to get even more out of him? I.e., was the time to sell Mo Salah last summer? Like, cause Salah's still been brilliant this season. He still scored a shed load of goals, but he just doesn't. He, as I said earlier, he looks a bit lonely without Sadio Mane up front, and he hasn't really connected with the other two.
The creative tension.
Yeah, the creative tension.
Sure,
exactly. They're all a bit too nice to each other. Huh?
They'd be screwed this season without him.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, but I wonder at the same
Somebody
time.
else would have scored those goals.
What's,
you know?
yeah, what's the future of Liverpool's attack? I think those front three at the moment they're fine, but they probably just need to connect more and play consistently together.
All right, let's talk about Man United though, because you've been avoiding this. You've been we can talk more about Liverpool and we'll get some of your comments. We are going to talk about Manchester United in a bit more detail with Daniel Harris in a few minutes, so we're not going to ruin everything here, but oh my God, what the hell's going on?
Luke Shaw's going to be a great pundit when he finishes.
He's an honest boy, isn't he?
He is honest.
Yeah, very honest. So the quote I have in front of me, I think they won it on passion, desire, hunger and attitude, four fairly important things. They clearly had higher motivation than we had, and that can't be possible. It's not acceptable. Higher motivation, why? Like, you're both going for top four. Understandably, United are still in the FA Cup and the Europa League and whatever else they're challenging them on a couple of fronts, but what does that mean, that Newcastle had higher motivation than we had? Like, they're at home, is that what you mean? To James's Park? And again, I appreciate Luke Shaw's honesty. I think a lot of United fans would appreciate Luke Shaw's honesty as well.
Would you not prefer a better performance?
Well, of course.
I'm sorry, but like what? Go on. But you're all making. Oh, isn't it great that we have this really honest guys playing for us? Play some better football.
Would you prefer he came out with a statement? We'll try
I prefer
better.
play some better football.
Yeah, of course.
He's got a new contract.
Of course. The gaping Casemiro-shaped hole in that midfield as well. Bruno
Oh,
Guimaraes.
we're now utterly reliant on one man. Is that what's going on?
No, but he's a fairly significant fulcrum.
You're right, Shane. Casemiro's missed 8 of the last 10 Manchester United games, and as Jonathan Wilson reported this morning, United are 2.5 times more likely to win the game when Casemiro plays. And having said that, the Brazilian crucial man he was in midfield in the 7-0 against Liverpool.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Do you know? I go back to Keane talking about was it the circus or was it the opera? I can't even remember what it was. Was it soap opera? What was he talking about in the aftermath of the cup? Is it just something bubbling up that he was unhappy about?
I can't remember.
Is that after the 7-0?
Yeah, I think so. It must have been.
Is there a bang of Wanda Ramos and we won the Carling Cup? We're off for the rest of the season. We've already qualified for Europe now. Deal's done. Sure, we can't finish. We can't qualify for the Champions League. Is that what's happening here?
No, they have to qualify for the Champions League. They have to attract players, and then financially as well. When you have new owners coming in, it's so crucial United get that top 4 place. I think this season more than any other recently. I mean, Den Hag was volatile yesterday. He had to be separated from Howe in the touchline in the second half. I think it was by Steve McLaren.
Is there a benefit to that? Is that like a good sign?
Well, I think when you're losing and you're performing as crap as United did yesterday.
Was that performative?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Erik ten Hag is a performative person. It's not in his demeanour usually. I just think the performance overall was brutal. I mean, they tried some different things. Lindelof being one of them. I just don't know. Like, where do you stick? It feels so far away from the Carabao Cup final performance against Newcastle.
I think you're right, Ger. I think the legacy problems of the last decade are still there, very, very present in this squad. And I think that the capitulation aspect it's always there in the background. And I think Erik ten Hag is probably shocked to see that it's still so prevalent. Like, if you look at the last 3 games, no goals in the league. Because you'd forget, since the 7-0 against Liverpool, they've had 3 other games. The 2 legs against Betis, where they won handily, and then Fulham in the FA Cup. But the game in between was 0-0 at home to Southampton in the league. You know? So they're kind of faltering at the point where people are saying, geez, they could mount a title challenge here. And it was a month ago, like the Sunday Times did this big piece on Casemiro and how he's changed the mentality at the club. And I think that triangle of he, Varane and Martinez is going to usher in the new era at United. But the legacy of the last few years is still very prevalent, and it's probably shocked a lot of people that it is so.
The thing I would say about United is that was the toughest fixture they have left in the Premier League, I would say, this season. Newcastle away. Like, they've a couple of home games this week. They've Brentford at home on Wednesday night, and then Everton at home this Saturday in the early kick-off. Like, they have a reasonable fixture list.
Who has Ten Hag made up his mind about this summer? Who's he getting rid of?
Anthony?
Oh, no,
I mean,
Anthony's his boy.
I know.
Anthony's his boy. The one player who had a shot on target for United yesterday, Anthony, 56 minutes, trickled into the goalkeeper's hands.
And do you all agree that he, like, what's going on with that? Because you were giving out about Jack Grealish and all the money a few minutes ago, Shane. I haven't heard you once mention the fee for Anthony this morning.
100%.
What about Shane?
What about Anthony? Anthony has been... Look, then he comes up with those moments like Barcelona, like he scores the winner against Barcelona at Old Trafford. Like, he just bangs in a worldie every so often.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want. A few, 4 or 5 moments a year, nothing else. That's exactly what you paid.
No,
I back Shane up there.
How much was he?
Yeah, well, look, this transfer fees every time.
Yeah.
Grealish is 100 million.
Harry Maguire, 85.
Don't mind the transfer fees. They're all outrageous.
It was
Don't mind
95
that.
million euro for Anthony.
Don't mind that.
82 million. That's not can't be
The
right.
club can afford it. It's fine. I think Anthony's isn't a problem.
No.
Versus other issues in the team.
Well, it's a little bit of a problem in that it suggests that they're going to be hit and miss with their transfer dealings, and they can't afford any misses. And
I think yesterday's
presumably Varane was injured, right? That's why they took him off.
Yeah, it wouldn't have
And they
made
took
sense
him on. They
otherwise.
took Lisandro Martinez off at the same time, did they?
Yeah, I mean, the only acceptable performance yesterday, and I understand those decisions from tonight, the only acceptable performance was David De Gea, and that's not a good sign that your goalkeeper is the main man.
But that double save, the second one just hit him.
Yeah.
He was on the ground
True.
already, but he had to be there, I suppose.
You had to be there.
All right.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, we'll keep going. Into the Amber. Irish in Europe, the Champions Cup.
Leinster are in green and everybody else is in red. That's how this works.
Pretty much.
But we're just mixing the colours here because we don't really, for the sake of brevity.
Red and green make amber, is that
like-
correct? I don't know.
A 50 burger in the European Cup. That's what Munster gave up.
Yeah.
Quinny's in France. I don't know if you saw Aisling Riley's footage of
Over on the ferry,
him
yeah.
and Raj meeting on the
beautiful.
pitch on her social. Anyway, we will come back to this a little bit later on. Munster were shocking. Like,
Not a great performance.
talk about legacy issues and chickens coming home to roost. That was shocking from Munster, but also not shocking in any way because we've seen this. We've seen this frail defence. Oh, where's your argument now, Colm, about all the lack of Munster players playing for Ireland?
But it's still there.
Share me your buddy's anger. Share me the righteous anger that your buddies have in the pub in Cork about the Ireland team
I will.
winning the Grand Slam,
I'll do
not
that,
having enough
I'll do
Munster
that off
players.
there. But I would say it would have been nice. I still can't argue for it, and this definitely doesn't help matters. Well, look, one issue on the side. It's 29 degrees, 83% humidity. Munster look absolutely knackered. Did you see them coming out in the second half? I mean, Peter O'Mahony looked exhausted and he was leading the line. They still notched up 35 points, but to ship 50, and 50 was being generous in the end. Cian Tracy's going to go big on this later on.
Okay, so we'll come back to that a little bit later on.
Yeah,
but
rightly come
not
back to
good.
the rugby.
And like, Ulster got a bit of a free pass. They're like, oh, we didn't expect them, and they did a little bit better than expected. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, Cian wants to talk about Ulster too, and they're...
I think you need a free pass when you're playing Leinster.
I think you got to stop giving yourselves free passes.
I know, but
Otherwise,
like-
you end up always having mediocrity as your bar.
They're a machine, though. This Leinster team are a machine.
Leinster weren't playing well at all.
No, I know, that's the problem.
A few
I
key
mean,
players missing as well. It was a little
Yeah.
window of opportunity for Ulster.
Somewhat.
I thought, in fairness, Stockdale, like, there is depth there now. He's getting back to some level of form close to what we thought Jacob Stockdale was capable of. Whereas if Mac Hansen was going to be injured or out later on in the year, you'd be very concerned. Now, all of a sudden, I think there is genuine strength and depth there. But
He looked like a player with a point to prove, Stockdale. Big
yeah,
time.
and I think he's 27, so still plenty of time for him to reassert himself as somebody that has the support of the Irish selectors. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's in the amber. We're going to move on to green.
Yeah, we'll come back to the rugby later on, as you said, with Cian Tracy. The league winners, the Allianz National Football League's coming to their conclusion over the weekend. Sligo, Cavan, Dublin, Mayo, the league champions for 2023. I was in Croke Park yesterday. Good atmosphere, good vibe. The two games probably disappointed somewhat. I was heading to Croke Park thinking this is going to be a really exciting day of football. Two really tight games, really interesting games. And in the first half of Dublin Derry, you're thinking, yep, this is going to script. But then Dublin, of course, started raising the green flags for fun in the second half. And Cluxton, of course, sat on the bench and didn't enter the fray at any stage. And then Mayo, Paul Joyce kind of almost, it wasn't an excuse after the game, but he was kind of saying they're probably further along in their prep, given that they play Championship next week, which I thought was an interesting way of looking at the whole thing. Killian McDade was a bit of an absence in that Galway team, I'd have to say. And when Mayo started so brightly and Galway pegged them back, you're thinking this is kind of the way you expect the game to go. You expected a response from Mayo maybe after the Monaghan game the previous week, albeit a raft of changes. Colm Reid, the goalkeeper, was brilliant.
Some save at the end, wasn't it?
Oh,
I know it was above his head, but the reflexes.
From the boot and from shot stopping, he was excellent. And I think there has been a lot of debate in Mayo as to who the keeper should be. They each have their pros and cons, but Reip has now shown that he has to start against Roscommon next week, and there can be no argument. He probably should have had a black card, possibly, for the Johnny Heaney tackle. Only got a yellow. I think lucky enough to only get a yellow in that one as well. 10 of Mayo's 14 points came from frees and marks. That's one thing I would say. There wasn't a lot of scoring from play. There wasn't that
Marks
kind of
count. Marks count.
They do,
They're,
of course
they're,
they
they're
count.
from play. Like,
yeah. Obviously, they ruin the flow of the game. You know, you can get a very handy mark, but it'll certainly be something that Kevin McStay is thinking about. It's funny. It's a different atmosphere to the Mayo League win in 2019. 2019 was like a watershed moment, national title, first one in a while. This is brilliant. Whereas yesterday felt like, okay. And it's probably because of proximity to the championship, isn't it, that they can't really celebrate this one.
the front of the actual Irish Times this morning has a picture of Aidan O'Shea looking up to the heavens at the full-time whistle. So obviously it did mean something to them,
Yeah.
you know. It wasn't nothing.
Galway just couldn't get level. 8 points to 5 down at the break. I think they got back to within a point again in the second half, but they just couldn't get that score to bring them level, which I think psychologically would have been fairly significant. I wouldn't be too concerned if I was a Galway fan. Not at all. They're waiting in the quote-unquote long grass for whoever wins that
Yeah,
Mayo or
and
Scotland
sure,
match.
look, none of these matches matter until, despite what everybody in Ulster will have you believe. Rory Gallagher is saying the Ulster Football Championship is a great structure. It's not. It just isn't. It makes no sense.
Not anymore.
It's actually punishing the good teams in Ulster by making them all beat the shit out of each other and then getting all the way through to a round robin stage and arriving absolutely shattered from the process. It makes no sense. And you all voted for it and you're all going to suffer as a result of it. There should be an Ulster winner of the All-Ireland this year. We should be heavily leaning towards it, given that there are so many strong teams up there and you're all going to kill each other.
Well-
and then all of a sudden arriving out and then you'll get picked off by teams who are inferior. That's my prediction.
Yeah, well, see the Tyrone Monaghan match in Omagh in the Ulster quarter final. In a normal year, I would be looking at that game with such nerves, and now I'm like, I couldn't care less. If Monaghan lose that game, I couldn't care less, honestly, because it's all about the group stages, as you
What's
say.
the last screen?
The last screen, we're moving on to Arsenal and City. We've kind of touched on City and Grealish and that performance, generally speaking, but Arsenal, team that we often get criticised for not covering maybe as well as we should. And again, that game seems like ages ago. But the 4-1 win against Leeds, Gabriel Jesus' return has really been cemented now. I mean, this title race...
Are they going to win the league?
They should from here, right? You'd make them,
Yeah.
like, you would say that they have everything they need. They've no distractions. They've got a really strong level of depth, it appears. They've survived their best and most important striker being out for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's theirs to lose.
Winning run of 7 games now. It's whoever blinks first at this stage. I'd love a title race where neither of them blink. They just keep going full speed ahead until the end of the season. It doesn't happen that way ever. Someone will blink. So it's just a matter of who. At least Arsenal have that leeway where they can maybe drop a few points. But it's going to be some.
Why does it
finish
feel
the
to me
season.
that Pep Guardiola is still going to be the manager lifting the trophy at the end of the season?
Because
Do you know why?
He always is, yeah.
You've been conditioned to
Exactly.
see it. Past performance is no indicator of... Anyway, right.
Okay.
That is this week's episode of the Gillette Labs Performance Rankings.